Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 183 of Mike in the Midwest, our mini podcast for the amazing patrons just like you of the Be Our Guest podcast. Of course, my name is Mike Rallman, host of the Be Our Guest podcast, and we are recording live here in the Be Our Guest podcast studios on Tuesday morning, January 23rd, 2024. Hope the show finds you well, and thank you so much, as always, for being a Patreon subscriber. You guys are the heart and soul of our show. I appreciate you supporting the Be Our Guest podcast and allowing us to put out the show. We have put out over 2,400 episodes, and we are still rolling. And this week, we have some great shows coming your way, so we hope you enjoy those. This week, just so you know, a little behind the scenes here on the podcast, Pam Forrester down doing a preview of the Icon of the Seas, the newest cruise ship with Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines. It is the biggest cruise ship in the world, and this thing is a behemoth. Now, Beck, I'm old, right? I talk about that all the time. I feel older and older every single day. But back when I got married in 2006 to my wife, who is an angel because she puts up with me daily, we had our honeymoon on a ship called Freedom of the Seas, which is a Royal Caribbean ship. And back at the time, it was the largest cruise ship in the world, and we went on its third sailing. Now, my wife had never been on a cruise before. She was a little leery of this. She said, this is a Titanic kind of story. This was, Titanic was that big movie, not too much before this. And she said, what are we doing? Like, are we really going to go on the largest ship in the world? Like, it's not its first sailing, but it's its third sailing. Are we tempting fate? I said, nah, we're going to it's a Caribbean sailing. We're going to the Western Caribbean. There's no icebergs. And it was totally fine. It was a great ship. This ship was massive. I mean, it was the largest ship in the world, bigger than the Dream and the Fantasy are right now. So it's a gigantic ship. The other day I saw a comparison of the Freedom of the Seas to the Icon of the Seas. It's not even close. This ship is so wide and so massive. It's unbelievable. So I cannot wait for Pam to get back and share what she thought of this experience, because obviously after Freedom, you had the Oasis class of ships with Royal. That was enormous. This surpasses that. So she's down there living it up. So she was not with us this week. So this week we have Ricky and Scott. And of course, tomorrow you'll get the listener question shows. We had some great questions on the shows. We lead in with the discussion about Big River Grill going out of business over on the boardwalk. Did you ever go to Big River Grill? That was kind of like the restaurant that was always there that nobody ever talked about. I had been there twice or two or three times because, again, Paige was a picky eater when she was a kid. So we would go there sometimes, like once or twice when she was a kid. They didn't take ADR, so you could just walk up. We just went there once, I think during a cheer competition, just because we had people with us and it was just like a last minute thing. We were in the area, but it didn't have a lot of atmosphere, average food at best. It was just a place to get something to eat. I mean, it was nothing special. So I see why it went out of business. I don't know how it stayed in business as long as it did, but I have a great idea for that space. So you'll hear it on tomorrow's show. And on Friday, we had a really fun show. I really enjoyed recording this one with Ricky and Scott. What we did was what I came to the idea of the show was it was going to be called Your Thoughts on ... And we all kind of threw out topics. So I wanted to hear their thoughts on the current state of virtual queues, basically, is how I came up with this idea on the treadmill. And we had a discussion on virtual queues. Are they good? Are they bad? Are they going to expand? Are they going to go away? So we had we limited the discussion on each topic to about 5 to 7 minutes. But then each person brought topics to the table so we could all discuss these topics. So we ended up talking about the current state of popcorn buckets, Country Bear Jamboree, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, a bunch of other topics. So Friday, you're going to get a potpourri of current topics and our thoughts on these things. And I want to hear your thoughts. So let me know on the social media at Be Our Guest Mike, and I'll retweet those things so everybody can see them and we can have the conversations. But more importantly, this Sunday night on the live call-in show, please give me a yell because Scott is going to be unavailable to record with us and take your calls because his Detroit Lions are playing during the show. And the Lions have not been in the playoffs in forever. Like, I think once in his lifetime. So they're playing the San Francisco 49ers during the live call-in show time. So I'm giving him a pass. I'm writing him an excused absence during the live call-in show. So it's just going to be us. So if you could tune in with us 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central, give me a call. Let's talk Sunday night. But that'll be the conversation piece. But you can share, if you were down at the races, you want to talk about your experience there, what you thought. Let's have some fun Sunday night. But I'm going to need you because I don't want to talk for 45 minutes to an hour. I want to hear about you. But what's going on here besides the show? We had an ice storm here in St. Louis yesterday. Man, did we get a sheet of ice over our town? I know a lot of places did as well. I don't know if you guys saw the viral video. It was going around. I was everywhere on my feed, but of course I am in St. Louis. I retweeted it on my Twitter feed, so go check it out if you haven't seen it. There was a fire truck, and I'm talking a full-on gigantic fire truck, like the Big Daddy fire truck, not like the little one that goes behind the big fire truck. I'm talking the big fire truck, like the hook and ladder, was responding to a neighborhood. I don't know what was going on in the neighborhood, but it was going down in a neighborhood. It's called Arnold. It's in South St. Louis. And it was going down the street. It's a hilly part of St. Louis. And it was responding to a call apparently. And I mean, yesterday we got freezing rain, and they've been telling us for days that this was going to happen. They knew it. It came in overnight, started like at 2 or 3 in the morning. So we woke up to this. I mean, it was like a skating rink outside. So I saw this video, and it's on, like I said, it's on my Twitter. This fire truck, this says 80,000 pound fire truck, goes down this, just starts just sliding. It does a 360, it does like a 720 down the street, hits a blue car that's just parked like in somebody's driveway. I mean, just annihilates this blue car. But amazingly enough, like comes to a stop in one of the driveways of this subdivision or this neighborhood. Didn't hit the house. This thing had so much momentum coming down this hill. If it would have hit one of these houses, because it's not the best neighborhood, like these houses aren't the best. They're kind of they're not like super structurally sound houses in Arnold. It probably would have knocked one of these houses off the foundation. There's a lot of mobile homes and what are they called? The houses that are built out of kits in this area. It would have totally just smoked one of these houses right off the foundation. It was a miracle. Like, one, the firemen and firewomen probably had to change their drawers after this. I mean, this thing was spinning like a carnival ride. I can't even imagine. Like, it scared me to watch a video. I can't imagine being in that thing. So check the video out. That's what it was like yesterday. Yesterday morning, as soon as I got up, first thing I do is, of course, I get on the treadmill and do my miles running, walking. It alternates each day. But then as soon as I go upstairs after that, Riley, she sleeps in. I get her and she goes out in the front yard and takes her, morning restroom break out in the front yard. So I let her out. And of course, it's just, like I said, a sheet of ice. Well, she hits it every morning. She hits the front yard super fast. She jumps off the front porch. We have a front porch, a couple steps down into the grass. Well, she goes out there and she does a Bambi move, right? Because she hits it and just peels out too. So it was just wild yesterday. My wife fell when she went outside and banged herself up pretty good. So it was just a rough day in St. Louis. Fortunately, right now, the current weather, I'm looking down at my taskbar, 43 degrees and cloudy. We're going up to 54 tomorrow. So the thaw is on. I just walked Riley around our lake. The lake is thawing out. It's not frozen over anymore. So we've made it. Everybody's back in school. Pam was off yesterday. Mallory's off yesterday. Mallory's at school today. Pam's at school today. It's quiet around the house. We're back into our routine today. It is, we've made it through the ice storm for now. And the thing was, I know that a lot of folks were having trouble getting home from Disneyland. I know some people were delayed a day, 2 days, even 3 days. So I'm glad that everybody hopefully is back. And then when you got back, I know a lot of people were impacted by this storm. Hopefully at this point it is moving out in the warm. I know for most of the country, it is going to get warmer over the next day or two. So hopefully a little bit of a thaw is on here for most of the country here for a little bit, and we can kind of get back into our routine. Last week's show was kind of about enjoying the journey and enjoying the little things, not just, the medals, but also enjoying the plane ride, looking out the windows, seeing other families interacting, getting excited at the gate. But today in every day, it's kind of nice to enjoy the routine. It's exciting to enjoy the big stuff, but I'm glad to just kind of be back into my routine. Like I'm going to be excited about enjoying my turkey sandwich and my baked chips, because as exciting as it is to eat at Rancho del Zocalo out at Disneyland, which God, I'd kill for that today. My normal lunch of a turkey sandwich and my baked chips is not a bad thing either, and that's something I look forward to as well. So, hope you are doing well. That's what's happening around here tonight. Speaking of getting back into the routine, we have a big basketball game for Francis House. So I get to go watch Mallory cheer on the road at our big rival Troy, which is in the next county over. It's about 25 minute drive north of us. And man, we do not like this school. It's a big rival. It's probably our biggest rival. And we are always just dead even with this school. So it could go either way. Wish us luck. The Troy Trojans against Francis Howell Vikings. May the good guys win tonight at 7. So watch my Twitter feed. Could be good, could be bad, but we'll cheer and we'll win. Go Vikings. Let's go, because we're unmatched. But again, back into the routine. Let's hope it all works out. So that's where I'll be tonight. But we have a great podcast coming out later on in listener questions and so forth. All right, so let's get to last week's feedback. Talking about the joy of the journey headed up to Wisconsin, where I'm sure that they had snow and ice. Trisha says, amidst shoveling 18 inches of heavy snow, as I said, it could be worse. We had just a little bit of ice because the snowblower wouldn't start. Surviving days of frigid temperatures and losing power, I wouldn't say my recent weekend was a journey, but more so of a roller coaster. It did make me appreciate being able to walk into a room and turn a light on, or playing a board game with my family in a warm living room. Hope all the listeners survived the winter storm that blew through. See, Trisha gets it, right? I mean, you take for granted heat and just light to play a board game at your kitchen table when you don't have it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but God be with you up in Wisconsin if you had to shovel that much snow. I'm sitting here whining about a little sheet about it. But I will say, I was talking to a Canadian guest that I'm working with at the Magic for Less just about this morning. Snow, as far as ice, like freezing rain when it hits your town, snow's better, because like snow at least gives you some traction for like walking your dog and going out, just going outside. I'm not saying it's always better, but like when you got to take your dog out to go to the bathroom, snow is better because you can walk on snow. Yesterday, I'm not kidding, they said the ERs were packed in St. Louis because it wasn't even a lot of freezing rain. It was 1/10 of an inch, but there were people ice skating on our streets because literally, I mean, like my wife fell and she only took, like, she was just walking off the front porch, and a lot of people this happened to because it just looked wet. And if you don't live in a place where it gets cold, you would be a dead duck, because I swear it just looks like the ground's wet. And you don't realize, by the time you realize it's ice, you're done. You're on the ground looking up at the sky saying, what happened? So if you know, if you're from a cold climate where this happens, you're aware of it. But the problem is, if you're from a place like where we are, it doesn't happen that often. And so sometimes you get a little confident, you don't remember, and you get bit by it. So snow better than ice, especially even for driving. You could not drive yesterday. Took Mallory's keys. Nope, you're not going anywhere. Sit down, little girl, because you are not going out. I did go to Taco Bell last night. I took Pam's car because it has better traction than my Jeep. But by then the temperatures were 36 and it was just rain and everything was good. And it's not that far away because it was podcast night. I had to get Taco Bell. I'm a creature of habit. But I will say Taco Bell was open. But I will say a lot of places were closed. Bread Company, which we call Panera, most people call it, but in St. Louis, we call it St. Louis Bread Company. That was closed. Chick-fil-A was closed. McDonald's was open, but about half the places were closed. But Taco Bell, shout out, open. I like it. All right, David's got some feedback from last week. He says, Mike, congratulations on all the hard work and getting those medals. It was great to be there for Marathon Weekend and cheer on all the Lizards. I completed the 5K with my family, including my son Carter, who was a big fan of yours. He even skipped going on test track on Sunday because he wanted to see Mike in the Midwest on the marathon course. Of course, once you went by, we had to run to get on before the crowd got there. I love that. Carter, you're the bomb. I appreciate you. Thank you, Carter. That helped me get to the finish, and hope you had a great ride. So Carter's the best. And, that's honestly, that's what makes our podcast family amazing. I love that we can all root each other on, cheer for each other. And David doing the 5K with his family, this is what Run Disney should be about. It's about families because it's like last week, right? The journey. Hopefully these families will train together and get excited together, make shirts together, talk about the trip for months prior to the trip together. And then when they get home, they can hang their medals on a wall together, make a shadow box together, and talk about this for years to come. It's not just about that day of the 5K Thursday. It's not just that Thursday. It's going to be that memory for a decade. I love families doing things together when you can, especially something like an event like this. And Carter, I love that. That's too kind, Carter. And I hope you always pick the ride over seeing me, though. I'm definitely not as exciting as a ride. And finally, Madison says, Mike, congratulations on the races. I love this episode so much, as enjoying the small things is something I opened my eyes to in 2023, and I really plan to continue to focus on in 2024. My husband and I completed our first Dopey this year, and I found the entire trip. I was just so happy and really tried to enjoy all the little moments. We spoke to you at Coronado one morning while you're finishing breakfast, and it's small interactions like that make this trip that made this trip special and memorable. One last thing. I'm not a Nightmare Before Christmas fan at all, and Haunted Mansion Holiday is one of my favorite rides ever. You're right. It's more than just an overlay. It's basically a whole different ride, and it's awesome. Couldn't agree more, Madison. And great to meet you over at Coronado, by the way. You can always find me at Coronado eating breakfast. I love their breakfast, by the way. So come and see me there if you ever want to find me. It was great seeing you there. Totally agree about Haunted Mansion Holiday. That movie is whack. I think I talk about that on this week's show again. But the Haunted Mansion Holiday, I did it 4 times. That's how much I loved it. I loved it. It was so cool. I can't wait to do it again. But yeah, the little things bring you joy. You know what I'm saying? If you intentionally look for the little things in each day, I think you really can't help but be happy. Like I said, I'm looking forward to my lunch today. My lunch today isn't, I know Texas Roadhouse makes me happy. Most people make fun of me because I like Texas Roadhouse because it's basic, but it's a turkey sandwich. It's cold cuts from our local grocery store and baked Lays. But I like that. That makes me happy. And I have the exact same lunch every single day here at the house. But I look forward to that. That makes me happy. It's my lunch. I have my little lunch break. I take my iPad up and sit on the kitchen table because I'm the only one home. Everybody else is at school or work. And I watch Buzzer, which is a channel on Pluto TV that plays old game shows. So it'll be Press Your Luck on. And so I'll watch Press Your Luck, have my 30-minute lunch break, as I do when I work from home. I still stay kind of disciplined, and that's my kind of little lunch break. Back when I was a teacher, I would eat in the teacher's lounge and interact with the other teachers and have a good old social hour. I don't get that anymore. Riley sits at my feet. We don't really have long conversations. It's kind of a one-way street there, but it's a modified lunch break. So, you take what you got, and it's a different kind of joy. So thanks, Madison, and congratulations on your first Dopey. How awesome is that? I love hearing when people do that. I love when people do things they didn't know that they were going to do in life. All right, let's get to today's topic. We got about 10 minutes left, and I wanted to talk about this because this past week, kind of a sad, bittersweet week. And the title of the show, you probably saw it, Why Thursdays Were Special. And they were in my early preteen years, say 10 to 15. Thursdays were special, and they might have been for you. And you might be like, why were Thursdays? Thursdays are random. Maybe Tuesdays are special for you because you get Mike in the Midwest. Yeah, right. Just kidding. Here's the deal. You probably heard in the news this week that there was a certain magazine that they laid off their entire staff. And when I heard the news, it made me sad. Sports Illustrated. Now, I promise it's not going to be a sports story, but it kind of is. So obviously, you guys know from the show, I'm a huge Disney fan, but more than that, I'm a huge sports fan. I grew up playing baseball was my sport. And, I grew up in a world before ESPN, basically. I mean, ESPN came around when I was a kid, but I mean, they didn't have like as much like big league sports as they do now. They had wacky sports when they first started. I mean, it was more like when I was a kid on Saturdays, you watched a show called Wide World of Sports on ABC, and it would show like skiing, boxing, Harlem Globetrotters, bowling. It would show just a really wide variety of more obscure sports. But one of the TV shows I'd love to watch was This Week in Baseball with Mel Allen. I still love that. I have that theme song on my marathon running list, by the way. But here's the thing. I had a subscription to Sports Illustrated. And on Thursdays weekly, you would get that magazine. Now, remember, this was a pre-social media world. Like right now, I can open like at lunch, I'll have my iPad with me and I'll sit there and eat my turkey sandwich and my baked chips and I'll watch Pressure Luck on my iPad, but I'll also scroll Twitter on my iPad as well at the same time. So I'm getting like up to the second news about, my Cardinals, who's signing a contract, who's disgruntled, what's happening at Mizzou. Did a recruit go to another school? Are we, courting somebody to come to Mizzou? All this stuff. It's up to the second. Back again, I'm old. Back in the day, you wanted to stay connected to your heroes, but there was not a way to do that. You longed for news. Like, cause I mean, when I was a kid, every day after school, we were playing wiffle ball. We were playing stick ball, or we were playing real baseball with a bunch of guys down on the lot that was empty in our subdivision. We were always playing ball. And then in the winter, I was playing basketball or, hockey or whatever other sport was in season. But on Thursdays, you would get a Sports Illustrated, and I would read that thing cover to cover because it would have obviously illustrated, right? It had amazing photography, and it would take you inside the game. So you'd read about, all these amazing professional athletes, and some you knew, Michael Jordan to be on the cover, Pete Rose or Mike Schmidt, or whoever was sometimes be a golfer, sometimes to be an athlete that you love. So you'd take that cover and put it on your wall, mount it there. Sometimes it's somebody that was up and coming, like a college athlete that you didn't know much about, but I mean, you'd read it. They also had a section in there that was called Faces in the Crowd. Now, I don't know if you knew this, if you read Sports Illustrated, but this is my favorite part of the magazine. Faces in the Crowd, what it was in the back of the magazine, and it highlighted basically amateur athletes who have done incredible things around the United States or around the world. So we would talk about like a high school kid that maybe had like an amazing game, or a golfer that did something amazing, and so Faces in the Crowd really, um, it'd be kind of like the human interest story at the end of the news where an amateur athlete did something that was just remarkable. And so you'd hear these stories, and it was kind of exciting to see that, it wasn't just Michael Jordans and Larry Birds and Steve Carltons and, all these people that were just amazing elite athletes doing things, but you'd hear about somebody that, Bob Smith in, Lebanon, Missouri did this, and, oh, wow, I've never heard of that guy. And that's like an obscure little town in outstate Missouri, but they did something remarkable. And it's cool because, that led you to believe that you could do that. So when I heard the Sports Illustrated basically went out of business this past week, it was like another one of those things that there goes your childhood, right? But then I got reflecting on this because, again, former educator. And I was thinking about, well, how did that impact me growing up as a person? And beyond the fact that I love Sports Illustrated for the fact that it connected me to one of my passions, which I still have at 50 years old. I love sports. I think I think I have a little bit of passing that on to my girls. Paige works in professional athletics, collegiate athletics, I should say. She's definitely always had a passion for sports, and I think I've kind of helped steer her down there. I mean, she would have done that on her own, I think, but I've always encouraged her, with sports, and she's a great athlete, a great runner. She's a great soccer player. She's a great basketball player. She was great at really any sport she played. Now she helps. She works in basketball. Mallory's a great athlete as well. The great cheerleader. She's really good at other sports, but she does cheer. Um, But I was thinking about this educationally. I think that when we were kids, my generation, right? My generation was given a lot of what we called environmental text. Now here we go with the educational stuff. But I have a theory. When I was a kid, I was given a subscription to Sports Illustrated. So on Thursdays, boom, that would hit my mailbox and I would read that sucker cover to cover. I mean, devour it. It was really read by probably Friday afternoon because I'd take it to school on Friday too and read it. And if I it really didn't make it to the weekend that I had anything left to read. But I'd always keep going through it till the next week came. Like I'd read it over, I'd reread it. But I also got subscriptions to I want to say a magazine that was called like it was like National Geographic for Kids from my grandma. So I'd read that. And I don't know, I think that came monthly. But there was also like highlights when I was younger. Now that was the one that you got in the doctor's office. Remember that one? See, I think I got that for just a short period because when I was a kid, I had to go to the doctor twice a week because I had to get these shots all the time for my severe asthma. And so I was always at the doctor and they had it. So I think I'd stopped getting it because I could just read it at the doctor. Because I just sit every time I got a shot, I had to stay in the doctor's waiting room for 30 minutes to see if I had a reaction to the shot, and then I could go home. So in 30 minutes, if I had to be there twice a week, I could read the thing. And they it was kind of dumb to have a subscription. But here's the thing. I don't know if this was true of everybody in my generation, but in my generation, I think we were given a lot of environmental print, which is like magazines for kids. Um, and so we were also expected in elementary school. And again, I went to a private Christian school. So I don't know if this was true of the public schools, but I think it was from my friends. The reason I think that I became a like an avid reader, and I still am, I don't read a lot of books, but I read a ton of news, is that I was given things to read that I was passionate about. Nobody told me to read Sports Illustrated. It's just that my parents knew that I like sports, and it was like feeding, like somebody that is like an overeater fried chicken. Like the Sports Illustrated would come to our mailbox on Thursdays, and I love sports. I mean, I destroyed that thing every week. But the thing was, as a 12-year-old, 11-year-old, I was becoming a better reader. I was increasing my vocabulary, and nobody had to get on me about reading. Nobody was bonking me on the head like you need to read 30 minutes. I was reading 30 minutes. I was definitely reading 30 minutes, but I was reading what I enjoyed. And when I got that National Geographic for Kids or whatever, I was always curious about the outside world because I never traveled as a kid. We went on one vacation for less than a week down to spring training. That was it. So when I got to see other cultures through these awesome photographs, and you got the accompanying articles about places in Africa or Antarctica, or unique places in Japan, or other Asian places. Yeah. Um, it really piqued my interest, and then I would go to the library and check out, do again, card catalog, right? I mean, that was my generation. I'd look at books. Nobody told me I had to do that, but that was how I think I became more educated without a teacher ever having to tell me, do this, Mike, and become a better reader. And I think that was very true of our generation. Now, looking again, I've been out of teaching since 2017, which I do miss teaching because I have a passion for it. I love seeing kids find who they want to become as a student, and especially I love sixth grade because I think it's really where kids find their passion and what they want to become to change the world. I always told my kids, you know, it does don't do something for other people's reasons. Do it for you. Like, how do you want to change the world? Like, that's what you need to figure out. What, you're going to be an artist, you're going to be a singer, you're going to be a writer, or whatever, you're going to be an athlete. What do you want to do? Like, what makes you genuinely happy, and how can you have a positive impact on the world? And chase it down to your last breath. That's what I tell my kids. And I do miss telling my kids that and having a class where we could do, had 180 days to tell them that, and help them chase that. And, but I think looking back, my teachers, we had to do book reports, we had to do the basics, but it was awesome how parents and grandparents and stuff. And I think this is true of a lot of my friends. They would just give us these things. like Sports Illustrated showing up. And that made us better readers. I never realized it. I never thought about it. But man, that kind of stuff. Now, kids of today, I don't know, because Mallory's always on TikTok. She's on Instagram. She doesn't get magazine subscriptions, but we have Apple News, but I don't think she uses that. The things that's sad is Apple News, we have subscriptions to 190 magazine subscriptions, like unlimited magazine subscriptions that she could have access to. Does she read any? Probably not. I read them. I go on Apple News and I look at all the magazines, all the Apple magazines and computer magazines. I love Apple News. It's like, God, if I had that as a kid, I'd have been a nut. But I don't know I'm just kind of rambling, but where do we stand today as far as environmental print? I loved being a kid and having access to that because I know it made me a better reader without anybody bonking me on the head and making me read. Just access, the word access. But where do the kids stand today? Because they're always reading Twitter, environmental print. But is it quality reading? Because I think Sports Illustrated was pretty good, quality text. I don't know if social media is quality text but you are reading. I mean, that's the thing. I don't know. Where do we stand on this? So give me some feedback here at patreon.com/BRGuestPodcast. What do you think? And what did you read when you were a kid? Did your parents set you up like this? Did they teach you and you didn't even know it? Were they feeding you just like my parents were? And we didn't even know it the whole time. Let me know. And let's have a great week, guys. I appreciate you. I love you guys. And I hope you have the best week ever. So until we talk again, you guys stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you real soon.